Hello, Bear 5. We have an evaluation right on March 17th. We need to review. Please, let's turn your book to page 66, 64. Right here, we can see some disasters like a hurricane, like a flood, or earthquake, or a tsunami, or volcano eruptions, right? So these are the things, the tips we need to pay attention to while these disasters. And I know the materials right on chapter 5 and chapter 6 could be difficult. Give me 20 minutes, I'll speak as much Chinese as I can. Let's try to figure out what this lesson, this chapter is about. Chapter 5的东西真的不好懂，那我们可以用中文辅助的部分就尽量让我们真的把这个东西弄懂，好不好？Okay, so there was one tsunami which hit the coast of Japan at 3 p.m. on Friday. 所谓的 past perfect 一定要有两件事情同时就是在一个句子里面，先发生的我们是用 had verb pp， 后发生的用 verb ed verb past. So let's try to check out. The tsunami hit the northeast coast of Japan at 3 p.m., right? 3 p.m. 那在海啸发生之前，这15分钟发生了什么事情？ There had already been an earthquake under the ocean at 2:45. So, past perfect and verb ed verb past. Let's see. There had already been an earthquake before the tsunami hit. Okay. 在海啸之前15分钟就发生了海底地震。Several smaller waves had hit the coast before the tsunami hit. 在海啸来之前，就有一些比较小的波浪先到达。But what did people do? 好，这篇文章我们谈论了3种人，哪3种人？海啸发生的时候 ，of course, those people who died, those people who survived. 一定分成2种人，活下来的人跟没有活下来的人。然后另外一个族群是什么？Animals, right? So, for those people who survived, what did they do? 有些人活下来，他们做了什么？首先呢 ，the government, there had been a warning on the TV and the radio. 电视上一定会先有海啸警报。So there had been a warning. Ever since there had been a warning, that's why some people had moved to the top of the buildings. 海啸来的时候，有人一定先逃到屋顶。That is why they survived. Why did they survive? Why did they survive? They had moved to the top of tall buildings. Although it was too late to protect the houses, cars disappeared in the flood. It was sad. There were a lot of tragedies. But how about those people who died? 有些人并没有存活下来。Why? They hadn't heard the warnings, or they hadn't had enough time to leave their houses. 有些人可能没有听到，有些人可能行动比较缓慢，来不及逃生。So they hadn't heard the warning. They hadn't had enough time to escape, to run away. That's why they died. They didn't survive. How about animals? Most animals had already run to higher ground before they heard the warning. So this is what the article is about. Okay. Now let's jump to reader story. Reader. So Poseidon, Clayton, okay? Not Clayton, Clayton, I'm sorry. Poseidon, 海神波塞顿. There was a small island in the ocean. Okay, it was a rocky island in the middle of the ocean. It was not a special island, and not many people lived there. There wasn't enough food there. It wasn't beautiful. Just a simple, ordinary island. But Poseidon came back to that island because he had noticed a beautiful girl. 海神波塞顿来到一个平凡无奇的岛屿。Why? Because he had noticed a beautiful girl before. So 这边用的是 after. So he came back after he had noticed a beautiful girl. And he found a girl. They got married. They had 10 children, 5 pairs of twins, and they even turned the island into a paradise. 然后在海神波塞顿改造之下，平凡无奇的岛屿变成一个人间仙境。It's a paradise. But Poseidon did everything he could to make this place a beautiful place. And before he left, he told those people to behave well, to help each other, to make this place a beautiful place, to maintain this paradise. 他交代大家要保护好这个岛屿，然后要互相尊重，然后要保持你的良善不要去争吵。然后他就回到他深海的海里。But one day, a loud roar woke Poseidon up. It was Zeus calling from the sky. 宙斯把波塞顿叫醒，因为呢 ，Why? Poseidon rose up. 那波塞顿从沉睡中回到这个他创造的城市，他创造的天堂，然后发现everything had changed. 在他回来之前，整个世界开始改变了，已经改变了。People hadn't taken care of the city. People had ignored. 在波塞顿回来之前，人类并没有遵守承诺。They hadn't taken care of the city. They had ignored Poseidon's warning. 他们忽略了波塞顿的提醒。Buildings had fallen down. People had started to argue. 在他回来之前，人类就开始放纵，开始争吵，开始斗争。People had become greedy. 变得贪婪。They had started to cheat, to steal, to lie, and to fight. 人类又开始偷窃，说谎，然后互相斗争。And Poseidon just believed the time had come. He had to do something. He tried to do something. He stirred the ocean into an enormous wave, and the island was flooded. Okay, a tsunami flooded the island, and that's why the whole city just disappeared. Okay, so that's why people believed there used to be a city called Atlantis. The whole population of Atlantis just disappeared, had disappeared. Okay, but the mermaids, the strange fish people find in this area, people just believed they are actually the residents of Atlantis trying to protect people. Okay, this is about the story of Poseidon. Okay, and 亚特兰提斯这个故事是谁说的呢？It's told by Plato. Okay, Plato. So the story, the children in the story central, they try to talk about the story. Scholar just asked, had you heard about Atlantis before we read the story? Angelo hadn't heard about Atlantis before they read the story. But Yasmin had heard about Atlantis because she saw a movie about Atlantis, about some divers looking for a lost city under the ocean close to Spain. They found some strange square rocks under the ocean. 在海床里面发现方方正正的一些石头，看起来是城墙的石头。But even before Spain, people had found some strange sunken cities under the ocean close to Greece and in the Bahamas. 但是在西班牙之前，其实潜水夫在希腊还有巴哈马都有发现奇怪的海底城墙。Okay, that's why Angelo believed that Atlantis wasn't real. He thought Plato just wrote it as a warning. 他觉得是柏拉图讲的一个寓言故事，希望去提醒人类的道德良知还有良善。But look at Hamish. While the children were talking about the story, what had he thought? He had thought this conversation might be an interesting conversation before he heard it. 在他听他们对话之前，他以为这个会很有趣 ，but it's not so interesting, right? And then we talk about some famous shipwrecks. The Edward Bolen, the Titanic, the Giglio, and Atocha. What's so special about Edward Bolen? Edward Bolen is a shipwreck inland. We can call it a desert. Okay, Edward Bolen 是一个在内陆的沉船。比较特别的是，它周围已经没有水了，因为里海已经被抽干，水位下降。That's why we can see a shipwreck right inland. It's very special. And the Titanic must be the most famous shipwreck ever. Giglio. What's so special about Giglio? It's an underwater treasure chest. It contains a lot of gold, treasure, a lot of jewelry, right? And how about Atocha? Atocha is the oldest shipwreck that we can found. That we have found till nowadays, right? And then, before we talk about tsunami and about the disaster kit, okay, let's talk about Hadverpipi. Hadverpipi. And then Atocha. And then the Giglio. The Giglio contains a lot of treasure, gold, jewelry, silver. It's a super treasure chest underwater, right? So how about Atocha? Atocha must be the oldest shipwreck that we know nowadays. It had a lot of damage and the oldest. Okay, so tsunami. Tsunami. What is tsunami? A tsunami is an underwater. Sorry, it's an enormous wave in the ocean that usually happens after an underwater earthquake, right? How tall can an tsunami wave be? It can be 40 meters high, right? So, how fast can tsunamis travel? A tsunami can travel faster than an airplane. Okay. When this powerful wave of water hit the coast, it can cause a lot of damage. Okay. And a tsunami actually gets bigger but slower as it gets closer to the coast. 所以海啸是怎么发生的？海底地震会发生海啸 ，OK，然后最高可以到40米的浪高，然后就移动的速度可能比飞机还要快 ，OK，so a tsunami actually gets bigger but slower as it gets closer to the coast。那进入到地面之后，它的速度会放慢，但是因为就是后面的浪往前推的那个压力，会导致它后续的力道会越来越大。Okay, so slower but bigger but slower, bigger but slower. Okay, and more waves can come after the first wave has hit. So they don't often happen, but when they do, they cause a lot of death and injury. 虽然海啸不常发生，但是发生的时候就会造成很严重的伤亡。This is why we need a disaster plan。请注意 ，disaster plan 跟我们说的 disaster kit 是不一样的东西。Okay, you need to have a disaster plan。首先你要有个避难的规划。Always listen to the radio and the TV for a warning。首先就是海啸警报的时候就要有所警觉，必须要 You have to do something. Remember in the Japanese tsunami story, you only have maybe shorter than 12 minutes to run away. Okay, 所以海啸警报发生的时候，不要迟疑，立刻 run away. Okay, plan a route to a safe place， 而且你在平常就应该要有这个就是逃难的规划。This is why the 小橘书 from the government it could be a very helpful kind of tool. Okay, and also it's important to prepare a disaster kit。所谓的 disaster plan 叫做你逃难的计划，但是 disaster kit 叫做你的救难包、急救包，或者是那个紧急应变包。那紧急应变包里面要有什么东西呢 ？First of all, a first aid kit 就是急救箱 ，OK， food, water, a radio, a flashlight, some warm clothes, some good shoes, a blanket. If you have pets, remember to pack food for pets. 然后这边的 food, water 都必须要是效期内，然后可以保久的东西。Also, you need to leave an instruction, some instructions at home for turning off electricity, turning off gas. 在家里你也必须要有标示清楚，要怎么样帮你关瓦斯、关电源总开关。In case when the firefighters or the suppliers, well, when some people who come to help, they can try to figure out how to help you. 如果有急救队、救难队，真的到你们家的时候，可以帮你做这些事情。Okay, so now look at the picture. When the police arrived, what had happened? 当警察到的时候，当然小偷已经跑走了嘛，对不对？That's why we can say the thieves had left. Let's check out the picture. We can say, when the police arrived, the thieves had left. The thieves had broken the window, right? The thief, what had they stolen? Had stolen some jewelry, right? Not all of them, but some of them. What had they taken away? Had they taken away any money? Maybe they had taken away some money, right? But look at the cat. Had the cat woken up? The cat hadn't woken up before the police arrived. So at the end, remember, had verb PP, had verb PP，先发生的用 had verb PP，后发生的有 verb verb past。The girl had left before I came. The cat hadn't, well, sorry, it's woken up, hadn't woken up before you called. She had lost her diary when she left the room. 我们用 Goldilocks 的故事来再讲解一下。Goldilocks, so the bears had left before Goldilocks saw their houses. This is why the girl came into their house. And Goldilocks had eaten the bear's porridge before they came back. And before they came back, Goldilocks had fallen asleep already. Okay. Before they came back, she had eaten the food. She had broken the chair. And she had fallen asleep before they came back. So past perfect. Please try to review. And then we spend some other time about past perfect. Please review, and I'll see you on Tuesday.